Hi Stampers, Rachel here from Rachthestamper.com, and today I'm coming to you with another Stampin' 101. So today I thought I would show you the difference between white, and very vanilla, since we have to throw that in there as well. I'm going to be demonstrating what I'm going to do with the Daisy Delight bundle. This is a punch and a stamp set that if you purchase together you get 10% off. The Daisy Punch is running a little bit behind. I don't really want to say it's on back order, but it's still slightly behind, lagging with shipment. So this might come a teeny bit later than the stamp set, but it's a great thing to get the two together because you do get 10% off, and most likely you'll probably buy this and then say, darn, why didn't I get the punch anyway? So I'm going to show you the card we're going to make with this eventually. But what I wanted to show you today was the different types of white cardstock, or even now vanilla cardstock that we have. So to get to the basics, we have Whisper White and Very Vanilla. So these are the two main things that if you're trying to put an inside to your card, you're going to either use Whisper White or Very Vanilla, because this one will give you more of a cream, relaxed feeling, and this is a much more crisp white. Now, there are two new additions. I shouldn't say two new. There are two new, but they're two slightly different. So we have had for a long time the thick white cardstock, which is the exact same as the Whisper White cardstock, but it is considerably, if this makes sense, if you can hear the difference, this is way thicker. This is great if you want to build a box or a project with it because it is very sturdy, more like the craft cardstock. It's definitely got a nicer weight. You can use this much better if you want to make a base card out of white. And now I'm happy to tell you that we also have Thick Very Vanilla, which is awesome. A lot of people have been waiting a really long time for this. So this is a new item. It's Thick Very Vanilla, and it's the same thing. So you have your regular Very Vanilla, which has a much thinner feel. You can use this for the inside of a card. And then you have your Thick, which again, you could use this to make a base. It's going to be a much sturdier base, or you could use this to make 3D projects. So let me just see if I can grab something here that I have as a 3D project. I have, let's see. Okay, so just closest to me. I made this little box for Father's Day. This is with the Nailed It bundle that they had a while back. And this is the Thick Whisper White that I made the top with. And it is considerably sturdier than the Smoky Slate, which is, I don't want to say flimsy, but it's just definitely not quite as thick as this Thick Whisper White. Well, now you have another option if you wanted to make this, say, into a card that instead of we did this, we did something with the Daisy Punch. You could use Very Vanilla Thick, which would make it a nice thick top, or you could use it as the bottom. And it would definitely, this would be a great little thing, now that I just gave myself an idea, to make into another little box with the Daisy instead. So you could use the cream, and then you could use Garden Green, would be really pretty, or So Saffron or Crushed Curry as the base. But anyway, that's the difference. So you have your regular Very Vanilla, and then your thick Very Vanilla. So that's a whole nother option for you there. And then, let me move these out of the way. We also have, that's not it either. It's hard to tell the difference of these when you're holding them. White, and white. So we also have our Shimmer White paper, which I absolutely love. So Shimmer White gives a little bit of a sparkle to your project. It is very difficult to see if you're not in person, I will say that. But when you see it in person and you can color on it, it makes such a beautiful card because it has just, not glitter, but a little bit of a glimmer shimmer built into it that makes such a wow on your watercoloring project specifically. And back, just one more quick thing. Let me take a step back. The other thing I was going to say is I used to use, when I wanted something to watercolor on with Very Vanilla, prior to having the Thick Very Vanilla, I used to use watercolor paper. But it was kind of like, it's not really white, it's not really vanilla. Well, you, in addition to the Thick Whisper White, you can watercolor onto the Thick Very Vanilla just as easily. It definitely has the ability to be able to be watercolored on. Now, you don't want to pre-wet it like you would with your watercolor paper. So some people with watercolor paper will wet this with water all over first, like a wash, and then they'll fill in the ink. So if you're going to use the Thick Very Vanilla or the Thick Whisper White, you don't want to do the wet wash over it. It'll make it a little bit too flimsy, and it kind of tends to make your paper a little bit wrinkly. So you want to just regularly watercolor, which basically means you would take your ink pad, give it a squeeze, get your little pool of ink, and then you would grab your watercolor or aqua painter and then pull the color there. Going to slightly dilute it and then paint on that. But you don't want to wash over it before you paint. So just a tip there to clarify. But one of the things, aside from, so here's your watercolor paper, that I am so excited about is this, if you can see it. It is glossy paper. Stampin' Up! Used to carry this a while back. I've been a customer for a very long time, so I saw this come and go, and I bought a ton of it. And I very sparingly used it because I didn't know where to get it again if I wanted to. And today I'm going to show you a simpler project, but I'm going to show you one coming up in a few weeks where we actually are going to make a resist with wax paper. So kitchen wax paper and a slightly warm iron. And you can make this so many different ways. So I can't wait to share that with you guys, but I have to have my setup right so it doesn't turn into a 27-minute video and a large debacle. But anyway, so this is new. It's back, I should say. Glossy white paper. It has one shiny side and then the other side is matte. Honestly, I've never used the matte side before. I always bought it for the shiny side, so I might have to try some projects to see what I can do for that. This just looks like a thick cardboardy kind of paper, if that makes sense. And then this is shiny. So this you can do a couple different ways. Now I did a few just to kind of show you, but I'm going to just show you the one we're going to finish today. But I did a couple so you could see how it would look. So when you're using this just with either your stamp pad or your stamp pad and your re-inker, you're going to also want to use rubbing alcohol, okay? So basically what this is going to do is it's going to help to spread it out onto a medium. So I did it a couple different ways so you could see, but you can also play around with this yourself as well. So this one here, I did not put alcohol onto it first. So what I did is I just took a square of the 4 by 5.5 piece of glossy card stock, and I opened up my ink pad and I just took this. I'll show you again. I just took, you want scrap paper, took this and I just dragged it down. Okay, so you can see, still waiting for my re-inkers. My goodness, I am tongue-tied today. My re-inkers to come in, so I haven't gotten them yet. So this is just dragged straight onto the glossy cardstock, okay? Now, another thing you can do, and I will show you with the same color again, I just want to get this out of the way. Another thing you can do, so that gives you this effect, you do have to let it dry, is afterwards you can spray this with your alcohol. So this is just alcohol in a Stampin' spritzer and you just spray it all over. You can do one of two things. You can just leave it to dry. You can take your sponge and you kind of drag it to kind of blend the colors around a little bit. But this makes a great background. Now, number two. This, I actually spritzed the cardstock. I'm sorry, I'm telling you backwards. This one was the straight drag. This one I spritzed the cardstock with the alcohol before. So what you'll do is, let me just move this over. I'm going to try to keep it on 1/2 if I can help it. Let's see if I can cover it up. Is you'll spray, this is just alcohol again in a spritzer. Spray that, move this over so it doesn't bleed. And then you can take, again, your stamp pad, or you could do your re-inker. And once again, you're going to drag it. I'll see if I can do this without getting my fingers too messy. This is definitely not a clean project too, so beware. And you see it gives a much, it's kind of a deeper but more of a brush stroke look, whereas this is a little bit more see-through. And you can go over this as many times as you want. Another thing you can do if you're not satisfied with it, you can take your, so we'll take our brush here, our sponge, and just drag down. Kind of will blend it a little bit. But the other thing is, if you don't like the way it looks, you can respray it. So spray on your paper with the alcohol, and then get your sponge and just kind of drag the color around a little bit. So this is going to make it a much more muted color. You can see it's kind of now pigmented the piece in between with a very light shade of pink. Or the third thing you can do, so what you could take your alcohol again, and we'll do this in the middle. Should have made a little bigger space. Sorry about that. And now you will take your refill and you can drop a drop of refill. This is Sweet Sugar Plum. Just like that. And then you can take your sponge and you can drag it over top to fill in. Now, my drops were sitting there a little long, that's why you had the dots, because I did this one earlier, and I did this in Garden Green, I think it was, right, Inker? And this, you cannot see the drops. So if you do your spritzing and you have your sponge ready, you do want to have your sponge ready when you do it, and you drag back and forth so you can see, you can cover up your spots. But basically, you're just dragging your ink around on this. And again, you definitely want to make sure you have a nice protection for your background. So these grids are great. They do sell these in the online store. Can't remember what the number is, but I will try to post it in the comments in the YouTube description. But you can drag it back and forth. And if you don't like it, you can always. So you keep adding your alcohol. You could add another little drop of your spritzer. And as a matter of fact, yeah, I did use Garden Green earlier. Let's just put a little Garden Green in there just to see what it does. And then we'll take this, flip it over, and you can make different kinds of patterns. And again, it's only going to stay to the spot that actually has the alcohol. So you can see it's not sticking quite as well to this other side that wasn't alcoholed. So you definitely want to use the alcohol to wet your project before you start. Okay, but anyway, so here we are. This is one that I did with the spritzing with the alcohol, and then I used the dropper and just spread it around. And what I did is I did a couple of my daisy punches. So I stamped the daisy image, and then it has the two different centers that you can fill in. And I just did a couple of them, and I thought I could layer them together. So what I'll do is I'm going to take this, let me move this out of the way, and I'm going to put this on with a dimensional. Like that, and I'm going to kind of offset it so it looks like it has more petals. You can bend these up a little bit so you have a little bit more dimension. You can take your Wink of Stella and give a little bit of shimmer to the inside of the flower there. They also have these really great jewel accents, which I did not get my hands on yet, that you could put in the center as well. Those are really cute. But there's a lot of great stamps to go with this. The leaves you could do. You could stamp the leaves on there. And I'm going to tell you one other thing, one word of caution. So let me get out a piece of Garden Green. Let me just trim this up real quick and we'll put this together. This would also look really good on crushed curry as well. Just give this a little crease right here. Let's see what it looks like on there. Green on green. That's pretty. We'll still do that one. And then I have my little flower. So one bit of advice, I did want to make sure that I made a note of this because I tested it out myself just to see. If you stamp directly onto this, it does wiggle a lot because this paper is very slippery. It will dry eventually. This is dried, but it is not crisp. So you probably want to stamp it onto something else that you can kind of trim out just to, you know, not have a wiggly lined image, because when you stamp on it, and I'm going to stamp the thank you, I'll stamp it onto this little scrap. I'll show you how it wiggles so you can get the idea. So you ink up your thank you, and this again is from the Daisy Delight, and we're going to just stamp this. Let me pull this off. Stamp this onto the scrap. Okay, so we'll leave that for that. When you stamp onto this, I just want to make sure I'm nicely in the field. You'll see it's going to wiggle. See, it moves very easily. So look how blurry that image is. So definitely don't want to stamp directly onto this unless you're doing it kind of for a background until I show you that other technique, which is rather cool. So what we will do is just going to scoot this out of the way. Now I am going to use fast fuse on this because it's definitely a little curled from all of the water and, or I shouldn't say water, all the alcohol just reacting with the paper. So I'm going to use fast fuse just to be able to hold it down nice and flat like I like. Or you could use dimensionals. And I'm going to just stick this on right in the center. Dimensionals would be cute too because you could pop that up. But this makes a great background and they're going to all look different. So that's another really cool thing about it. So we can take the other thing, just in case you don't have it, let me show you one more quick tip. Since the project life kind of went away and we now, which is awesome, have our own line of scrapbooking stuff. If you haven't seen it, there is a lot of really cool ideas that we're coming out with now, but I'm going to be able to, as soon as I get all my stuff, I'm going to do an unboxing. But anyway, so we don't have the corner rounder any longer, but if you have the envelope punch board, you can stick this in and you can still round your edges. So I thought that's pretty cool. Of course, my black fingers are smudging up the whole works. And this is another cool thing. If you wanted to do something different, corner, and then round, something a little neat. I don't know, I'm always trying to think of things that are outside the box. All right, one more here. So anyway, that's a great way to be able to round your edges, in case you didn't happen to get the Project Life thing, because most of that stuff sold out pretty quickly. And what we're going to do is, I think I'm going to put this down flat, and then I'm going to just pop the daisy up on another dimensional. And then you can just put your little, we'll cover that way it covers my little smudge that I just made. You can always save a card, always at least try. And you could put some pearls, you could put those little jewel accents in here. They were really cool. But this daisy punch, you don't have to just do yellow. I've seen people do a lot of really, really pretty color combinations with this. Pinks, yellows, the sugar plum, flirty flamingo, a lot of really cool possibilities with this. So don't limit yourself. You could also do your white accents if you want to put one inside there instead. Just do something a little outside the box. Let me just give this a little crease. I didn't crease this when I did it, so it stays nice and flat. Perfect. Well, there you go. And then all you have to do is just add your white, or if you wanted to, could have done this in Very Vanilla and add some Very Vanilla on the inside there. So as always, thank you guys so much for taking time to watch. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment here on YouTube. If you haven't already, I would love for you to subscribe to me as Rach the Stamper. And you can also follow along with me on Facebook and Instagram at Rach the Stamper. And as always, you can get all these supplies and more in my online store 24/7, rachthestamper.stampinup.net. Thanks for taking time to watch, guys. I hope you have a great day.